So thank you for shortlisting me for this Open Research Prize. In this presentation, I'm going to be telling you about a very open GW4 funded research project that we conducted about sheep lameness. So just to give you some background, lameness is a term for impaired gait in sheep that's usually caused by bacterial infections of the foot by bacteria that live in the soil. So you may have wandered around the countryside and seen sheep like these ones which have quite severe lameness where their feet are so infected that they can't actually bear weight on them because of the pain. And obviously this is a huge animal welfare issue. It's also an issue in terms of antibiotic stewardship because antibiotics need to be used to treat these bacterial infections, which risks selecting for resistance. And it's also an economic problem for UK sheep farming. So it costs the industry around 28 to 80 million a year. And that's because of the costs associated with treating the disease with antibiotics and also the losses of productivity associated with it. And although lameness is usually easily treatable, if you can recognize it early and treat it with antibiotics early, the industry as a whole is struggling to reduce the prevalence of lameness. So they've had some success in reducing the average prevalence of lameness on UK sheep farms to less than 5% in 2016, but they're struggling to reduce it further. And in this project, taking inspiration from the field of human-centered design, we tried to develop a fun way of addressing this problem by co-designing a video game with farmers and farm vets where players were challenged to identify the signs of lameness in a virtual flock of sheep. And the original idea with this was that it could be perhaps used as a virtual laboratory to help researchers more easily study the factors influencing farmers' ability to identify lameness, or alternatively, it could be used as an online training or awareness raising tool for farmers. And what we did in this project was, after developing the game, we conducted an online citizen science experiment where we invited people to play the game and share their feedback as well as some information around their background in order to understand the extent to which it could be used in these ways. And what I really want to highlight in this short presentation is how our project developing and evaluating this game really was open from start to finish. So it involved participatory design with farmers and vets, it involved a citizen science experiment with farmers and other members of the public. It was really transparently reported in terms of its results. It was published openly, and finally I think it sets an example for others seeking to adopt open science practices. So the first thing I want to highlight about this project is its highly participatory approach. Farmers and farm vets were involved in the whole research process from start to finish and were allowed to fundamentally shape the direction we took. So for example, when we were developing our sheep animations, the animations of sheep lameness, farmers worked with us to provide feedback on our animations and even provided reference material by taking videos of their own sheep that we could base our animations off. Also, even before that, early on in the project, we'd initially intended to focus more explicitly on the issue of antibiotic use and resistance and reduction. But when we spoke to farmers in early interviews and focus groups, they told us that the only way they thought that we could do that was to focus on improving stock personship or the ability to identify disease on the farm. So farmers had really fundamentally shaped the research direction we took from start to finish. So the second thing I want to note about the project related to its participatory approach is the citizen science aspect. So at the core of this project was a citizen science experiment in which we invited farmers and members of the general public to evaluate the game. And this really helped ensure that we got an honest evaluation of the game. It also provided opportunities to raise awareness of the issue of lameness because we put out an open call for people to participate in the game, and we got contacted by ITV to go on the news and talk about lameness, which really helped improve the reach and impact of our research and raise awareness of the issue of lameness and antibiotic use associated with it. Another thing I'm particularly proud of with this project is how transparently we reported the results. So not everything actually went to plan in this project. At least on the budget we had available, we weren't able to achieve the desired levels of realism in our animations for the game to be a useful training tool for farmers. However, we were really honest about this when we wrote up the results, and we were honest about the limitations of this medium for this purpose. And what this does is it really allows other researchers to avoid pursuing potential dead ends and allows them to learn from the challenges we face. And we were so transparent that we even included the budget of our project as supplementary material so others can build on that and factor that in when they're planning similar projects in the future. So when it came to publishing this research, we published it in an open access venue that was open to interdisciplinary veterinary research with the help of funds obtained through Open Research Exeter. We also pre-printed 2 versions of the work and openly and ethically published the data and code associated with it, even though the publisher didn't require us to do this. So in terms of publishing the data and code, we had to engage with some challenges, such as how to publish interdisciplinary and qualitative research openly, but nonetheless we were able to find ways of doing so. And also we had to engage with the challenge of having collected lots of personal data, how to publish that openly. And nonetheless, we thought about that from the stage of planning the project and in our initial ethics application, so that we had informed consent from participants to publish the data openly, and we collected it in an anonymized enough way that we could publish it openly. So it really stands as an example that even if you're collecting personal data from participants, you can still do open research. And finally, I'd just like to highlight how this work acts as a good example for others interested in adopting open science practices. So I've been able to use it as an example in open science training sessions that I've delivered across the GW4 network as part of the UKRN's Train the Trainer program. So for example, I've used it to demonstrate the value of pre-printing, because when I pre-printed this work, someone emailed me a few days later to say they were doing something similar and they wanted to collaborate. I've also been able to use it as an example of highly reproducible and robust work. So you're actually able to easily download and rerun the whole analysis using the documentation I provided on my GitHub repository. And also this work in the manuscript was actually produced in R Markdown, calling in statistical results from actual objects in R, which gives it an extra robustness. So finally, I'd just like to highlight and thank the diverse and interdisciplinary research team involved in creating this work. So this included researchers from across the GW4 network and beyond, as well as a farmer and a game programmer and a 3D artist and animator. So thanks for hearing about our project. I'll take any questions now.